Hey, welcome to Genre Exposure, a film podcast. Join us as we explore the wide world of cinema, broaden our horizons one movie at a time. I'm one of your hosts, Dustin, and as usual, I'm here with Michael.
What's up, guys?
And Jason.
Hey, everyone.
What's up, guys? How you doing?
Doing good.
Pretty good. Pretty good. Get all my goofies out.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to do that first.
Yeah. I saved some for the show.
Of course. How are you doing, Dustin?
I'm here.
Yeah.
Long week.
You sound so excited to be here.
Stuck with you fucking guys, so cool.
We're continuing our odyssey into made-for-TV movies.
That's right.
We started off with Duel in the 70s, and now, Jason, you have advanced us into the 80s.
As I often do.
Are you going to go into the 90s?
Maybe. Perhaps.
Ooh.
We'll see. And also with HBO, which is cool. We need to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
But first, like always, we're going to warm up and talk about what we've been watching. And I actually don't have a podcast shout-out this time. It's been crazy at my work. I haven't had time to get in that podcast listening. But we are part of the Prescribed Film Podcast Network, and we're super excited about it. Thank you. I link it. It's in every episode. You can easily go find it. There's all kinds of shows on there, hundreds of hours of content that you can just fill your ear holes with. Lots of horror podcasts, all kinds of other interests. Do you like toy collecting? Do you like paranormal stuff? Do you like true crime? It's all on there. Go check it out. It's awesome.
You know what the best part is?
What?
It's free.
It is. It's free. Absolutely free.
Free is good.
Yeah.
It's the best price.
You don't even have to pirate it. It's like free.
But you can pretend to pirate if it makes you...
You could dress like a pirate while you listen to
get
it.
that edge of danger in there.
God damn it, Jason.
What? I mean, you can.
You've worked from home for too long.
Wow. Michael, what you been watching?
All right. So mine... Oh, I should not hold that so close to the thing.
Some bit crushing there.
Yeah, I'm trying to look up my movie here. So I watched one I was kind of excited about.
All right.
Since I read about it. It is a new Netflix film. Sorry, Dustin.
I'm out.
Called Metal Lords. Jason, have you heard of this?
I have not.
Oh, interesting. I thought you would have heard of it.
You would think so.
All right. So its claim to fame is that it's written by D.B. Weiss of Game of Thrones fandom, which I don't know if I'd call that a claim to fame. I mean, they did fine on like the first 6 seasons.
I liked it. I was happy with the whole thing.
But this is like his new... so he is actually a metal fan. And there's a lot of videos of him like with a bunch of heavy metal dudes like playing the Game of Thrones intro together. So it's like Tom Morello, Scott Ian, like a bunch of metal guys.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
So the basic premise of this movie is that two friends try to form a heavy metal band with a cellist for the Battle of the Bands. Things that I like about this movie. It's very tongue-in-cheek. I'm going to put that away because it keeps bit crushing.
Yeah, put that thing away.
It's very tongue-in-cheek. It knows what it's doing.
Sure.
It's basically takes the whole love of the heavy metal genre and gives you the archetype of the kid who's like the heavy metal kid in high school. Always wearing the metal shirts.
I wouldn't know anything about that.
Yeah, I know. Always wearing the metal shirts, long hair, and he's always the one who's talking that he wants to form a band and they're gonna be gods. Like, we're gonna be metal gods. So then you got the other archetype of the super nerdy kid that befriends this guy. And he gets him to play drums in the band because the kid happens to play drums in marching band. Oh. So he automatically assumes, like, you're a drummer, dude. So, like, you're in our metal band. And their band name is called Skullfucker, which I think is pretty awesome.
It's a good one.
Good name.
The film starts off with just so many rapid-fire references that I was hooked. Like, I mean, Maiden posters everywhere, Dio posters, like... Judas Priest on the wall, like everything.
That's right.
The kid's car has a license plate that says Power Slave.
Nice.
Like everything about this just screams that someone knows their metal. Mm-hmm. They end up not being able to find a bass player, so their band never really sounds good. So the one kid finds there's a new girl in school that's very shy, but she has a temper problem, apparently, because you see her throwing her clarinet at the band director and calling him a cunt, and he says, we don't use that word in the United States. She's British. Okay. So it's pretty funny to...
Sure.
We don't use that word here. Anyway. She becomes kind of interested in metal because the nerdy kid is into metal, and she's kind of into the nerdy kid.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But the main dude's like, no, dude, you can't have a cellist be your bass player. That's not metal. Thing carries on. Some issues I have with it. It does address some mental health issues. to deal with the female lead. She takes her quote-unquote happy pills, is what she calls them. She stops taking them and has outbursts at school. But when she starts dating the other main character, she says, I don't need them, you're my happy pill. And I was like, uh-oh. That one was like... Ooh. They kind of address that in the film. Like, it doesn't make you broken or wrong that you have to take medication for your mental health, but it never went far enough to say, like, I can't be your happy pill. You know, like, and it almost, that was a hang up for me just because it's a personal issue that I'm like, no.
Sounds like a bit of like YA was whimsical.
Yeah, so you got to be careful with that. But if you're on the fence about this, like if you watch the trailer for it, if you're on the fence about it, I will tell you it's worth a watch for one scene where the nerdy kid has the angel and devil on his shoulders kind of a thing, and they're talking him through it. And it's Scotty Ian, Tom Morello, Kirk Hammett, and then Rob Halford shows up. And they're talking him through the situation, and Halford's like, you don't abandon the ones that you love. And it's just like super, it's just so many good references.
That's fun.
But in the end, it just made me want to go watch Heavy Trip.
So that's what I was about to say. It sounds a bit like Heavy Trip to me.
It's very similar in concept. I don't think it's executed as well, and it's a little more teen-oriented, which, Dustin, I don't know if you've seen Heavy Trip.
No, I don't believe I have.
Totally worth a watch. If you like any sort of metal.
I do.
Is that Swedish?
I think it is Swedish.
I've seen a lot of like metal horror stuff, but not...
This is metal comedy. Straight up metal comedy about some guys who just... They're trying to start a metal band, and they just...
Yeah, they're trying to make it to this festival and stuff.
It's a phenomenal movie. This just left me wanting to watch it. But it's only an hour and a half. The references alone were worth it for me and made me like, okay.
Yeah.
I can't be mad at this.
Right. If you're a metal fan, you're going to find something to like about it.
So, Jason, I would say watch it carefully.
Okay.
I think there's some jokes in it that are funny. And with all of the metal references, I think you'll at least find some enjoyment in it. You'll see every hang-up I have in it immediately.
Okay.
But it's only an hour and a half. If you like metal, watch it.
Cool.
Sounds like you could do worse with your time.
Oh, yeah. It wasn't bad at all. I laughed out loud several times, so it was obviously worth the hour and a half.
Nice.
But Metal Lords, Netflix.
Sweet.
Cool. Go check it out.
Yeah.
Should I go next?
Sure. Why don't you go next?
Oh, there's so many things I could talk about.
Yeah?
Yeah. But I've put this off, and I do want to bring it up on the episode just to see if anyone will write in and talk to us about this. So recently, there was the Oscars. And the less said about that, the better.
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
But there's also those fan ones, right, where people kind of vote. And Michael already knows where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
And so one Zack Snyder took home some awards from those. And there's been this whole chain of like, the hashtag restore the Snyderverse. And it's really like blown up. Like I'm the one that manages most of our social media stuff, so I'm not super keen on using Twitter, but I like to engage with anyone that wants to talk with us on there. So I do like go on there and like check regularly and like look for cool stuff. So I'm just constantly, all the time I'm on there, I'm seeing this like, oh, the Snyderverse. And as someone who was like lukewarm on most of those films, I was like, what am I missing? Clearly I must be missing something.
Clearly.
So I took it upon myself to go back. I rewatched Man of Steel. I was always okay with it. I liked it.
No wonder you're in a bad mood tonight.
I didn't ever hate it, so I get some of the criticism, but I'm like, whatever. It's a pretty decent Superman film. He actually like fights people in it, which is something you can say for it, I think.
I've always liked Cavill as Superman. I don't think he's a bad Superman.
I think it takes more strength not to fight, Dustin.
I mean, when you really think about it, though, those old Superman films, like, he barely throws a punch the whole time.
Yeah. I mean, he would eviscerate people.
I don't know. Anyways, that's another conversation for another time.
You've seen what happens in Invincible. What happens in
Right.
So then I watched Batman v Superman, the Ultimate Cut, which I had never seen. And as I watch it, I'm like, you know what? I don't know why, but those 30 extra minutes, it actually makes it better. Something about the padding and the pacing of it.
I do not like where this is going.
Like, I don't know, it filled it out more, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'm kind of digging this, right? Still, it's got a lot of problems. It's very rushed. They're cramming like 3 storylines together, all kinds of craziness.
Sure.
So then I say, okay, now's the white well, right? You got to go on to Zack Snyder's Justice League, which is the crazy 4-hour investment that it is. So I watched it.
Didn't you already recently watch that?
Yes.
Okay, you rewatched it.
Well, no, this is...
No, this is him talking about it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes,
I've been wanting to bring this up for like 2 or 3
I
episodes.
see.
You're
Yeah.
breaking immersion, Jason.
Sorry.
Just stay over there. Look pretty.
He's already depressed because he generally knows where this is going.
Just sit over there and look pretty, and Dustin will finish with you in a bit, okay?
So, I've seen the other one, the Whedon cut, I guess is now what we're calling it. Probably should just call it the studio cut, I think, at this point.
Sure.
And of course, that one was really bad.
That's the only one I've seen.
And that was like, coming from that, I kept thinking like, I never even had a desire to watch this one because I was like, well, how could you even take that and like do anything to make it any better? Mm-hmm. What's adding like 2 hours to it gonna do?
Just the fact that you say adding 2 hours is like...
You know. And then the crazy thing is that like, dude, I really, really loved it. I thought it was like so engaging, so entertaining. Like, it really worked for like that vibe of the DC sort of like feel.
So join us next episode when it's just me and Jason.
We're recording this on April 8th. It is not April 1st. I keep double checking.
No. Like, really, I was impressed with how much I liked it. How much more like the extra context on everything. Because if you've seen that other cut, like the Flash and Cyborg are kind of just like there. Like they just pop up and are doing shit and have like no background, no setup at all. And this was like, it was long to watch it at 4 hours, but then you think like, well, it was going to be 2 films before Warner Brothers got like gun shy about everything and started like pulling plugs on different ideas.
Is that the one where the Flash enters the Speed Force?
It is the one.
Which is the most cheerable moment,
Yes.
according to this past Oscars?
See, I think if you were a comic fan, you would know like why that's a big deal for people.
Uh-huh.
To me, it's like no more exchangeable than like the Avengers lineup when they had the Endgame thing. That's equally as like a big deal, but
I don't mean to sound dismissive.
Well, but that was important though because I think they're basically doing Flashpoint Paradox, right, for the next.
They are, yeah. That's kind of the plan.
And so you have to enter the Speed Force in order for Flashpoint Paradox to work.
It was just hilarious how it was in the Oscars, and like no one at the Oscars is like, what the fuck is this?
But it is a cool scene, and that's one of the things I want to say is like that final part of the film, like when they're actually going at Steppenwolf. I was surprised how different that looks and how much better it is like rendered and all the CG and stuff. Like even Steppenwolf, like they completely redid his CG, and he actually looks interesting now and like blended in with everything.
I mean, he was born to be wild, so someone had to do it.
What else? Other things I want to say about it? I think I've always liked Ben Affleck as Batman. I think like I've gone back and forth about it, but he really does like. To me, I don't see why you couldn't have both. You can have this younger one that's like the Matt Reeves Batman with Robert Pattinson, and then like an older one that's more about the Justice League stuff, and it's Ben Affleck playing the role.
Sure, why not?
Because even like if we want to talk about the comics, and I'm just wasting so much time on this film, but it's okay. Like when you read like a Batman comic and then you read like the Justice League with Batman, that's 2 totally different flavors of things anyways.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah. But I'm interested to see what they'll do now because they're in a weird spot, right? Because they've axed... pop filters
My
are
pop filter keeps drooping.
out of control
it's,
this
it's
episode.
mirroring my emotions right now.
Right, because they've axed all this because they were like, this doesn't work, no one wants it. And then now, like, they did this cut, and it's, like, super, super well-received, super acclaimed.
Did Aquaman come out after that?
Yes.
Okay. Right. I was wondering what the last one was so far. I have no idea.
The last one's been, like, what, Shazam or Suicide Squad, the second one?
Yeah, I guess that still falls in the same... Is it in the Snyderverse, though?
I don't know. That's the thing, is they've kind of broken all this up, and they've talked about that new Flash movie that, like, it was going to be part of it, and then they've, like, axed it, but now maybe they're going to go back. It's just interesting, because I wonder, as a studio, like, what do you do when you've, like, canned all of that, but then suddenly you're like, wait, no, this is what people want. Do you backpedal and try to, like, go back to that, or what? I wonder.
And then you have the whole Ezra Miller controversy now, where he's, like, in trouble, so...
Quite a bit, yeah.
Where they're like, well, should we continue? I don't know.
Wait, which one? What did he do? Which one's he?
He's Flash.
Supposedly broke into somebody's house and assaulted them or something in Hawaii.
That's not cool.
Yeah.
It's doesn't look good, but, you know...
Apparently the Speed Force isn't the only thing he's entering.
But hey, if Ozzy can kill a guy and get out of it...
That's true.
Then, you know...
Ozzy? Who'd Ozzy kill?
I don't remember. I think it was just a joke from Airheads.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I think so.
Ozzy hasn't killed anyone.
It was a...
It was a joke.
It's a joke? Okay, all right. Yeah. Ruffling my feathers
So
a little bit here.
I'm going to say Zack Snyder's Justice League. I quite liked it. I'm kind of surprised at that, so...
Okay.
He just did that so he can talk about it in the in the show notes.
Yeah.
If you like superhero films, I think it's at least worth checking out. It is a big investment.
Did they fix the mustache issue?
They don't have that scene because that was a reshoot they had to do with
They
Whedon.
should have kept the mustache.
And that's another. I guess,
Give Superman a
Shows up with a
mustache.
mustache, like, okay.
and I guess one more thing I should say too. Speaking of like the whole like Whedon version, there was a lot of stuff that when you see that one, I thought like, oh, that's something that Whedon made because it's funny, but then it was actually something that Snyder shot, and I was surprised.
And
But
then you
so
just look at,
sorry, go ahead.
you look at all the scenes where Gal Gadot looks punished, and that's actually the Whedon one, where he's just being a shitbag.
Is there nothing that Whedon shot in Snyder's cut? Like nothing?
No, nothing at all. It's all like Snyder's footage.
Interesting.
So yeah, pretty cool.
Cool.
What do you got, Jason?
I will briefly talk about two movies because they strangely dovetailed on me. This is one I saw a long time ago and decided to rewatch it because I just love these kinds of movies. But it is the Bloody Pit of Horror from 1965.
Cool.
It's Italian.
Hard eye or soft eye? Italian.
Always hard. Always hard.
Italian. It's Italian.
We're in Kentucky, so it's Italian.
It's Italian.
This is a movie about a photographer and models go to this abandoned castle to shoot some sexy covers for horror novels.
But I know where this is going.
Yeah. Unbeknownst to them, the castle is inhabited by a lunatic who believes himself to be the reincarnated spirit of a 17th century executioner. The Crimson Executioner, to be precise. It is kind of like trashy in a very chaste way, you know, because he's like torturing these girls, and it's not really like a lot of flesh you see, you know, but there's like hints of it, you know. They show as much as they can, basically, and it's just so out there and so crazy and unbelievable. Like he's pouring hot lead on this one girl, and it's obviously just like paint.
That's awesome.
But
That's how it works.
yeah, it's like an old Weird Tales cover or something. The whole movie is. But they had this really cool location, this castle they shot in, and I can't remember the name of the castle right now. It doesn't matter.
It does matter.
No, not really. So you know, it's a fun movie. Check it out if you like '60s Italian.
Where could one
trashy
find this
kind of
if
things.
they wanted to?
I believe I watched it on Tubi.
Tubi, of course.
We're really bucking for that Tubi sponsorship.
And then I watched a movie called Malabimba, also Italian, from '79. The little blurb about this one, I haven't found much about this really. The blurb is, Bimba, a 16-year-old daughter of a wealthy family, is starting to show disturbing signs of demonic possession.
Uh-oh.
And unlike Reagan and The Exorcist, which this is very much a ripoff of, she's more interested in having sex with people.
Oh. I mean, thankfully, because
Oh my.
Reagan's a child, so...
Right, right.
Thankfully.
Thankfully, yes. Yeah, right. This one is so sleazy. It's great. And surprisingly, I watched it on Arrow, and they kept in hardcore inserts, which was, well, it's like, whoa, okay, all right. So
There's something about that phrase that's just actually fitting for it.
that's what they're called. They're
yeah.
usually shot after the fact, usually by some other director, and they're just like inserted into.
They usually are. That's usually how it works.
Yeah, there are some of those. But is it a good movie? No. Is it a fun movie? Yes.
What
And
more do you
but-
need?
I was watching it and I realized, holy shit, that's the same castle as Bloody Pit of Horror.
Ah.
So I thought it was so
now-
weird because I watched it like a day later and I was like, that looks familiar. That's the same castle.
Jason's
Sounds
sitting
like
there
a-
watching hardcore pornography. He's like, I recognize that set.
Seriously, yeah.
That's a recycled set. Come on, guys.
Oh,
That's a real castle.
That's kind of like the swimming pool in Japanese adult videos. I don't know why I brought that up just now. Oh, don't worry. I don't put anything from our first part in the show notes, so I don't have to tag that.
Okay, here it is. Balsorano Castle was where it was shot.
So here's my question now. Are there more films shot there?
There are actually. Like
we could do
Lady
a-
Frankenstein was shot there.
So we could do a block
We could.
that was films that involved this castle.
We could.
Just adding it to the list.
Yeah, put that on the list.
Yeah.
I like it.
check them out.
Alright, so we are talking about Fortress from 1985. Jason, why don't you pitch this up for us since it was your film?
Yes, it is my pick. It was made for HBO in 1985. It is Australian.
Directed by Arch Nicholson,
Who did very little else.
He has a handful of other films.
Mostly TV work, yeah. I saw this back in the day. I believe when it was on HBO, although I think it was also played like in syndication and stuff later on.
Really? Oh, shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
Things in there that I was like, okay.
It was the 80s, man. Things were like more lenient. Sometimes. It depends. It's weird.
Except for that whole, Reaganomics thing. Not so lenient on the little man, is it?
Right.
And I've alienated most of our podcast listenership now.
So, what genre would you say this is?
I would say it is thriller, survival horror.
Okay, I could buy that.
And I'm a sucker for like those type of survivalist films.
Yeah, thriller was the main one I kind of pulled on. When I looked online, there's also a lot of people give this the action and adventure tag, which I can kind of see.
I can kind of see that,
Yeah.
but it's really more of a thriller.
I don't. There's not really good adventure, and I think usually with the action adventure tag, you get like there's some like whimsy. A lot of times with some of the action and adventure, and there's no whimsy
Or
here.
it's the focus.
You didn't think there was whimsy in that score when it kicked in?
Well, not intentional whimsy.
Well, I was surprised to see that HBO began in 1972. That it goes that far back.
I would have never thought. It
Yeah.
went back into the 70s.
Apparently, like its demographic was very small then. Like it was only in certain regions. But by the time the 80s hit, they became pretty huge. And I remember HBO was a big deal back in the day.
We had I was a kid growing up.
Yeah,
That was like
we'd
our
have it
one-
sometimes. We'd subscribe for a while and then stop and then get it again.
Well, we didn't actually. I grew up in a very rural area that did not have access to cable.
Ooh.
So we couldn't get it until satellite came around, and we had the huge, like TerraVision dish in our backyard. That's it. And then I remember my parents like one time got HBO for something, and I was like, "What?"
Whoa.
Yeah, it was
What are
pretty.
these?
It was pretty cool back then.
But I was like 13 by the time we got satellite at all. So
So I always remember in the 90s when they did the Spawn animated series, and I like wanted to watch it so bad, and I asked my parents to like tape it for me. So they screened the first episode, then they were like, "No, you can't watch this."
Oh
And I was
no,
like, "Oh,
that
but
sucks.
I'm buying the comics, so
Yeah, what's the difference? Wow.
I never knew about HBO's history. Like I didn't know how big of a deal it was until I watched that last Blockbuster
oh yeah,
documentary, and then I had because you and I grew up in the age where there was always VHS. Like we always had VCR. We could always like rental wasn't that big of a thing. Like it was just normal for us, and I didn't know. I sound like such a millennial. Like I didn't realize that. Like once you went to see something at the theater, that was it.
Oh yeah.
You didn't get to see it again unless a theater had a copy and were playing it, or it got put on
Released.
television.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize that you couldn't just go own it.
Yeah.
And then when I found out about HBO, that was more like, oh, well, you can see these things again, and it doesn't cost you a fortune to get like Betamax or a VHS player
And record it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a big deal. They were like trying to figure out ways to keep people from recording it and stuff like that. And
wow.
yeah.
So one thing before we move away from genre, I thought maybe we should talk about is should we get into Ozploitation? Do you want to talk about that for a minute?
We could touch on it.
So Ozploitation are exploitation films, which are all, generally a category of low-budget horror, comedy, sexploitation, or action films that in this instance are made in Australia, typically after the introduction of the R rating in 1971.
And have nothing to do with Ozzy Osbourne, who definitely didn't kill anybody.
And that same year also was when the Australian New Wave movement began in cinema. And so along with that, at the same time, this Ozploitation style kind of peaked in the same like little motion.
Movies like Razorback.
That's actually listed, and if you go to IMDb for Fortress, underneath it's like similar movies, Razorback. Razorback.
That's a good movie. That's a great movie.
Razorback.
So the actual term, it's credited to a documentary called Not Quite Hollywood, The Wild Untold Story of Ozploitation.
That's a good doc.
It's from 2008. Worth going to check out if you dig Australian movies like this. Boo, 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 boo.
And Fortress has a connection to Ozploitation, too.
Other than being Ozploitation?
Is it?
It's listed. If you go on Wikipedia.
I guess
other
it could be, but typically when I think of Ozploitation, I think of more like sensationalistic films. Maybe this is a little sensationalistic, though.
But I wonder, too, because like in a lot of listings, I saw Mad Max on there, and to me, that's almost like a big movie that I wouldn't count.
Back in the day, no, the first one wasn't. It was pure cult film.
Maybe I could see
But
that.
speaking of Mad Max, this movie has someone from the Road Warrior.
It does.
Playing one of the abductors. Has Vernon Wells as Dabby Duck.
Those names.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, you don't really ever see him.
So maybe we'll do a block on this at some point, because I think it would be a fun one to dig in on.
Yeah.
But before we go any further, are there any personal favorites you guys have of Ozploitation? I know you mentioned Razorback. Do you dig that one?
I dig it, but I mean, honestly, if you're talking about the greatest Australian movie, it's The Road Warrior. I mean, hands down. There's no...
Can you count New Zealand in it?
No.
Not usually, no, I don't think.
Damn. Okay, then I don't know enough Ozploitation.
Just say Road Warrior, dude.
So I wrote down some. I do like Razorback, and it's weird because usually I hate like animal attack kind of horror films, but I do dig that one. Just the way it's done.
So why is that one different from others?
I don't know. It's just the way it's executed, I guess. Just
It's very MTV.
yeah.
And it's just because you get to hear people go Razorback.
Yeah, that's you.
Razorback.
I do love that accent. So, Road Games from 1981.
Oh, I have not seen that. I need to see that.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And then for something a little newer from 2005, Wolf Creek.
Oh, yeah, Wolf Creek was good.
I do like Wolf
Amazing.
Creek. I didn't know if that would... I didn't know if, like, coming into modern times, if it's still Ozploitation.
It's generally still considered as such. It's just like anything, it's died down right as the years have gone on.
No, I liked Wolf Creek. I liked the first one. I didn't give a shit about the other 10 or however fuck many they did.
And then they do like a TV show version too, I think.
I think so. Yeah. Same dude. Like, could you consider Crocodile Dundee 2? Exploitation.
Well, probably in its most purest form.
I mean, this movie has a lot of Crocodile Dundee 2 in it.
It does, yeah.
There's a lot of, like, Mick Dundee, like, traps and shit that are set. And if, like, one of those kids had a big Bowie knife, they'd be like, that's not a knife.
I see you've played knifey spoony before.
So this film has an interesting link to our last one. Did you guys pick up on that?
No.
Right, so Duel was based on a short story by Richard Matheson.
Ah, yes.
This film is based on a novel by Gabriel Lord.
It is.
Also called Fortress.
Loosely based on a real event.
Yes, that was the next link I was going to go to.
Okay.
A little bit about Lord. She was an Australian writer born in 1946, and she's considered Australia's first lady of crime. She did a lot of, like, crime fiction sort of stories. Cool. I guess psychological thrillers is what she became, like, famous for.
Okay.
But yeah, Jason, this is also based on a true event. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. In 1972, it was the Faraday School kidnapping. A one-teacher school, rural town of Faraday in Victoria, Australia. Two men kidnapped six female pupils and their teacher, and were going to hold them for $1 million ransom. The government claimed it would pay the ransom, but the victims escaped.
Damn.
And they caught the crooks, and they were tried and convicted. But then the main robber, and his name was Eastwood, he escaped, and he did the same thing again. Kidnapped another teacher and 9 pupils.
He was really fixated on this idea, apparently.
Yeah, and apparently he was like on the lam carrying these people with him, and he kept collecting hostages. Like he was in a wreck, getting away with the kids, and he took the people he wrecked with. And then later on, he like took an RV and took those people. They're just going across country collecting hostages.
Menagerie.
Yeah. It's like a Tarantino movie or
Get
something.
all my hostages here.
You know,
Some people think that the crimes were inspired by Dirty Harry and the Scorpio killer in there because he abducts a school bus.
Yeah, he takes over that school bus. Another funny thing I saw about this dude, so after the second time when he got caught and put back in prison, apparently he strangled to death another inmate because he was a convicted rapist, which he claimed it was a matter of self-defense.
Damn, okay.
But apparently he served his sentence and got released, so... what the hell? Okay.
Maybe he tried some other angle, decided to stop trying to, abduct school kids.
And then I think one other little background thing to throw in there before we go into the film itself. Another inspiration a lot of people bring up is Lord of the Flies.
Yeah.
William Golding's novel from 1954.
That's actually when Piper, she watched the end of this with me, and she was like, 5 words or less, explain this movie. That's her thing for me, is like 5 words or less. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I what I ended up saying, and she was like, oh, so like Lord of the Flies.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah.
I don't think it goes as...
No, she doesn't have that rule. She can say however many words she wants. I'm limited to 5.
Oh, okay.
Because I'll be like, you remember that movie from 1962? That, like,
so she must hate listening to the podcast.
She doesn't.
We never say anything.
She doesn't listen. She doesn't listen anymore. She straight up told me the other day, she's like, I stopped listening a long time ago.
Yeah.
I was like, that's fine.
My wife's like, they're too long.
That's exactly what Piper said.
But yeah, I don't know if it hits the same, psychological depth as Lord of the Flies, but you can see its inspiration on the film.
Oh, absolutely, sure. I think it's saying something different, but we'll get to that.
Okay, let's just roll into the film then, I guess.
Let's do it. Yes, so the movie opens at a small farm at dawn.
And I quite like this intro.
Yeah.
The way it comes in with the music and it's like panning across the farm.
Mm-hmm. Very picturesque. You could tell it's in a rural area.
But the music is kind of intense, almost.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And we meet Sid, I believe is his name.
Mm-hmm.
He's...
played by Sean Garlick.
Yeah, does a good job. But he has
It's
a rifle.
pronounced Gallic.
He has a rifle and he shoots a fox that's been preying on the chicks.
I do have a question.
Foreshadowing. Yeah.
Was it real? Was the fox real? Yeah.
It looked a little real.
I think it looked real. So did
I don't know.
So did the mangled cat.
Was that a cat or a squirrel?
It might have been a squirrel.
It was
I
pretty
don't know.
mangled.
I'm really bad at animal identification. So
Well, it was pretty messed up.
So I
It was dead. It was all messed up.
I kind of wondered about that. I don't know.
No way to know.
So his shot wakes up Sally, who's a British school teacher who's living with his family.
Played by Rachel Ward.
Yeah, and she's good. I like her.
She's been in a ton of stuff.
Mm-hmm. One thing we realize about her pretty quickly is that she's proper and polite.
Mm-hmm. Very, very polite.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice.
So there's some family talk, blah, blah, blah.
We also learned that Sid's parents are terrible actors.
So along with most of this people in the movie.
I think they were very natural is the word you're looking for.
All I'll say is don't be put off by the intro, because when it first started and the mom even opened her mouth and said one line, I was like, oof.
I didn't think it was
what is
egregious.
going on now?
I didn't think it was that bad.
It gets better though. I think
I
the
did
core
notice
cast is much better.
There was a scene where, and this was an editing problem as much as it was an acting problem. But the dad, is sitting there. You can see him nodding her lines, and then he pauses. Reaction line. It's very much like reading cue cards kind of a thing. But yeah, so I did notice that one. I was like, oh, okay, well. But that's an editing problem you didn't have to show him. Mm-hmm. You could have shown her delivering the lines, pop to him. That's an editing problem. It's a director problem.
Okay. So then Sally, Sid, and Sid's younger brother, Tommy, is that his name?
There's a lot of fucking Tommies.
There's a lot of
in this
kids.
movie.
There's a lot of kid names.
I think it's Tommy.
They start walking to this rural one-room school, not too far away.
And we see they're in a very rural, very desolate kind of place.
Yep. And that dead animal you mentioned, whatever it was, Tommy spits on it.
Yeah.
Says you got to spit on a dead animal for luck. So, remember that in the future.
Words to live by.
Please don't. Fucking please don't.
There was one shot that I liked a lot on their walk to the school was when they're on the train tracks. Mm-hmm. And you see the train coming up behind them.
Yeah, and you're like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, there's a train right behind you. And it's moving slow, but it's still, it's just
It's
inexorable.
catching up to them.
It's lumbering, it's coming. you know?
Yeah, my whole emotions with that, I was like, oh, this is a cool shot. And then I was like, is the train going to roll up on them, though? Why are they still on the tracks? And then I was like, oh, no, it's going to stop at the station. Then I'm like, oh, fuck, no, it's not stopping at the station.
When I was watching that in my mind, I was just thinking of the conductor, like, fucking kids.
You're not gonna move?
Will you get off of the goddamn train tracks? It's Jason in there.
You get the vibe that, like, this happens every day or something, almost.
But again, it's a bit of
damn it.
foreshadowing, I think, because it's, you know, something big and oppressive coming at them.
Sure. Do you think this would work better as a play?
Yes.
Do you think this film would have worked better as a play?
Much better as a play. Oh, man, I think I'm in trouble on this one. Okay. Yes, so they get to the school, and there's, what, like 9 pupils, something like that?
I believe it's 9, yes.
And ages from, like, 6 to 16.
Which I wondered, like, maybe this is to think, because there used to be a lot of one-room schools. Like, how did they, like, organize that when you had, like, the different age ranges?
I mean, they would have different lessons for different, you know, ages.
Well, I think, and from the dynamics, it looked like Norelle, who was the oldest girl.
She's the one coming out swinging that big-ass bell, right?
Yeah. She looks like she's kind of hit the end of her schooling and is now, like, teaching the younger ones. Kind of looks like how it's going.
Well, she's definitely helping, yeah.
Yeah.
But when they show up, all the kids kind of start playing before they go inside. They're singing songs, which I think we should, you know, songs are an important part of this film almost, because she has the kids sing quite a lot
Right.
through different stages of the film.
Each kid has a certain part of the song that they sing.
That would have annoyed the fuck out of me.
And we get a little characterization because they're, I want to say, what's his name?
Derek is the bully.
Derek's the one I was thinking of, the bully.
Of these kids, Derek and Norelle are really the only important ones besides Sid.
Yeah.
Derek's the bully. He's the big guy.
No, Tommy's important.
I guess Tommy's important.
He becomes important.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
he's like off, like sneaking and smoking.
Right. And this one, like the youngest kids over there, giving him a hard time about it. So he's bullying the kid. And we see him bullying one of the other little girls a lot in the classroom, and everyone's kind of arguing and being kids.
Well, I think they say they've only got like 2 weeks left of school for right now. And they're gonna go on like a summer break.
Right.
But the teacher, what's her name? Sally straight up puts everybody in their fucking place.
Oh, yeah.
Like, quickly. She's like, you, quit being a dipshit. You, stop being a fucking bully. You, animals are not here just for you to torture and spit on, you piece of shit.
Yeah.
Sit down.
The quote is, animals are not put on this earth expressly to be mutilated and spat on by capricious young boys.
Yeah, she was straight up, no hole. Like, if you fucked up in her classroom, she's going to call you out.
And they also make fun of her accent and stuff.
Yeah.
And like her stuffiness.
Well, she didn't really shoot him down for that, but that's fine. She's like, I'm above that.
Yeah. And one of the kids gets distracted by an animal he sees outside, which turns out to be one of the gunmen who stormed the school with sawed-off shotguns.
And it's neat how it starts, because like they call out about it, and she looks and there's nothing there, and she's like, well, you're just, you know, goofing off still.
Yeah, right.
Get in line.
Doesn't believe him.
And then we see one of these people just show up in the window.
Yeah, Father Christmas, right? He's the one that shows up in the
It's
window.
rather unnerving, I will say that.
The masks are pretty, especially the Father Christmas one.
I wasn't expecting it.
They're very like cheapish, but it's in a way where it makes them kind of disturbing just to look at them. And apparently these are like quote unquote characters. They might be real characters. I don't know. Like obviously Father Christmas is an easy one to pick up on, but it's Dabby Duck, Pussy Cat, and Mac the Mouse.
Mac the Mouse, yeah.
Because it seems like the kids like know the characters.
Right. That's the impression I got. Maybe they're like cartoon characters over there or something.
Well,
there's no way to know.
And so when they see these dudes show up, Sally's quickly like, lock the doors, and they're like, fuck, there's a kid in the shitter. and that's when you look out, and sure enough, one of the dudes has got the shitter kid, and he's like carrying him out.
Yep.
The thing that I noticed right away, though, did you notice how willy-nilly they were with these guns?
Yeah.
Like, they shoved them right in the kids' faces.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
yeah.
You do not see that shit now.
Right.
That does not happen.
Yeah.
But they were like, and they were rough with the kids.
They don't
like,
hesitate to put kids in jeopardy in this movie.
They were picking the kids up by their shirts and shit, and I'm like, Jesus, you don't see that now.
Yeah, I
at
liked
all.
it because it's not like full on a horror film, but when it gets dangerous, it gets like really dangerous.
Yeah.
In like the vibe it has.
Yeah. So Sally says, grab your belongings, your lunch boxes, and all that stuff. We're going to go on a little
We're
picnic
going on a
with these
kidnapping
people.
field trip, children.
Yeah. So
They abduct the kids.
They put them all in this old crappy van and start driving.
So pretty much we're literally right along with the actual event that happened.
Right.
Just we've got more kids in the mix.
Exactly.
They end up, though, Sally ends up convincing the captors that you're going to have to pull over and let these kids pee.
Well, there's some neat development first before they pull over.
Yeah, Michael.
Because they're driving out into the countryside, like away from the little town they're at. And the captors are kind of talking to one another, and they're talking about how they're going to get ransom money. Mm-hmm. And I think one of them even says something about like, they'll pay immediately as soon as they find out. With this many kids, there's no way.
Yeah, and they're ogling Norell an awful lot too.
Yeah, it's a little creepy.
I do take issue with Norell's character in this film.
Okay.
I actually take pretty hard issue with that.
All right. Is that something we'll get to later?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
All right.
Okay, put a pin in that thought.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she tries to get the kids to sing, and they're just very like, no singing.
Yeah, which I can't blame him. I wouldn't want a bunch of kids singing.
Those
in the van
fucking
either.
songs annoyed the shit out of me.
The kids songs are fucking annoying.
Tell me about it.
At least it wasn't fucking Baby Shark or something.
Shut your goddamn mouth. Don't even say the words.
But yeah, then a kid mentions having to go to the bathroom.
Well, actually, she says, "I like to be excused." And I took that as like I would like out of the situation.
Could I be excused from this kidnapping, please?
And the guys are like, "Oh, okay."
That's
sure.
like sorority babes, where it's like, I can see we've troubled you enough so far. Let's just get out of here.
She asked politely, so you just go on. Go on, you're fine.
But yeah, she kind of spins this into like, we need to stop and let the kids use the bathroom.
Right.
It's going to be a big hassle.
Yeah.
But while all the kids are doing their thing, she's plotting and scheming with the older kids.
She's sneaking in and peeking.
Thank you, Uncle Impy. She's... God, I can't even say that anymore because I'm just gonna look and see his face.
She's scheming with one of the kids, and she kind of tells him like, "Hey, go out there, like you're gonna use the bathroom, right?" And then slip off and go and
I
run
think
and
it was
get
Tommy.
help.
That is Tommy. Yeah, that's
Tommy.
redheaded Tommy.
Old
redheaded
It's a little ginger kid.
And then, which it's gonna work until one of the dumbass kids.
The little girl. They start singing the song back
She's
in the
a
van.
dumbass. Like they should have told her.
You're right. Well, I mean, one of the kids, I think it's Sid, says to Norell, like, Tommy's ran off, try to pass it along to the others.
Yeah, make sure the kids know.
I guess the little girl didn't get the memo.
Yeah, she
Yeah,
fucked
they
the whole
get to
plan
Tommy's
up.
part. Someone else sings it.
It's Derek.
It's Tommy's part.
Yeah, it's Derek because he picks it up and he's like, "Oh, I have to do this part."
Right, yeah.
God damn it!
So the crooks are like, "Oh, stop the van." And then they're holding the shotgun right in the little kid's face.
Yes.
Toby, I think his name
That's
is.
the one. Though that's another one of the scenes that
Yeah,
I'm
he's
like,
got him by the scruff, shotgun right in the
yeah.
face.
And the poor kid, you can actually see it on his face. Is like, oh shit!
Yeah.
Please, Scott.
But he literally says like, "You've got till the count of 10 to get that kid back here, and if not, I'm going to blow his head off."
Yeah.
And she just takes off running down the road and shouting after Tommy and being like, "Hey, it's over, Tommy. Come back, please."
Yeah.
We just have to give up.
And
Which he does.
Yep. And they get back in the van and keep going. And they take them to this very remote-looking area, and they hoof a little bit, and the abductors take them to this cave, make them crawl down to this little cave.
It's like a little hole in the ground at first, but you can see it kind of like curves down into a cave.
I was getting serious D&D vibes watching this.
They up the creepiness factor a little more too, because as they're getting them down in there, I think one of them makes the thing where it's like, they talk about the teacher and they're like, "Oh, she'll probably be up for a gang rape, right?"
Yeah, there's something like that.
You can see that these are just terrible, terrible people.
Yeah, they don't give them.
It's amazing how people who would abduct children are also skeevy perverts.
They don't give them a whole lot of backstory, but you don't need it because the little
Yeah, you
things
don't
that
need
they
it.
say, they're like
What's on their mind.
enough that you're like, oh god, these are horrible human beings.
Yeah. And then they put like a boulder or something over the entrance and seal them in, and it goes dark, and everyone starts freaking out.
Well, it turns out, though, that some of the kids thought in their haste to grab some things, like to bring with them or to have with them. Mm-hmm. So I think it's Derek happens to have a pack of matches on him.
Right, because he smokes.
Yeah.
So that's like a cool like setup callback that they do. Mm-hmm. They show you that, and then
Well, and all the kids have their books and stuff, and like they have their notebooks and all that. So now it's pitch black in here. So they're like, well, we got to start a fire. So they're able to get a fire started with the paper, which if you ever started a paper fire, like those are gone in like 5 seconds.
Right.
So
Yeah.
but then they come up with an interesting thing where their fire's going, and then one of them goes to take a drink of water. Well, they end up getting Norel's
Salad dressing.
dressing that's apparently just straight,
Highly flammable.
yeah, straight like
It's 100
kerosene.
proof. It's Everclear.
Yeah, it's Australia. They just put kerosene on their salad.
You know, I felt bad about that because, like, it's Derek's the one that drinks it, and it's like they set him up to be the class bully, but then he's like one of the most resourceful ones throughout the rest of the film.
So they decide to make candles with shoelaces and this highly flammable salad dressing.
In cans, the kids have
They're Fosters. Yeah.
God, that would have been so fucking hilarious if these kids are like going through their lunches and like they all pull out a Foster's. Just like, that's what we drink here. We only drink Foster's.
Vegemite sandwiches.
They should have mentioned Vegemite sandwiches.
I'm shocked they did.
I think that's a cliche.
No, Dustin, it's not.
Okay. We have any listeners in Australia, write in and let us
I
know.
don't think we have any.
Yeah.
They've got more class. they're like, we're going to listen to those guys.
They're too busy fighting off all the creatures that want to kill them. Right?
Yes, exactly. So we get these scenes of resourcefulness, you know,
and this is where the score really ticked me off because early on you had this great like 80s synth wavy, like good like do just really really awesome sounding. And then they get in this cave and it's like we're going to have our war council and make our plan. And it was the most like low budget, like sing-songy, like
it's not the best.
Fucking the worst that Full Moon has ever put out before.
Wow.
Like just jaunty, like da 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 da.
Most of this scene bothers me. Most of this segment of the film kind of pisses me off.
How so?
Because it could have been not nearly as goddamn long. Like you
Okay,
could
so
have.
you're talking about the scene where they find an underground river and they decide that they're going to swim through it.
Well, there's also one thing bothered me about that too. Mm-hmm. So when they do
We're not
find
even there yet.
What?
We're not even there yet.
Oh, okay.
To set that up, like basically one of the kids starts noticing that the smoke from their Molotov cans is kind of drifting towards a crack, and he's like, we should go explore. Mm-hmm. And Sally's immediately like, no, we don't know where that goes. We got to do the smart thing, and we're going to stay here.
Mm-hmm.
And they do try to push that boulder off, but it's not.
Yeah, it's way too heavy.
But the kid quickly convinces Sally, like a little too quickly, that like, what are we going to do? Like, we need, you said this was a war council. Mm. And so she just decides, okay, we'll see where this goes. The rest of the kids, you stay here.
I like that too. I like that she actually does listen to a good idea. She doesn't just dismiss it.
That part doesn't bother me. Yeah. But when they go through when they do a little spelunking, mm-hmm. And they come across this little underground waterway or whatever, mm-hmm. that was the dumbest thing in the world to swim under that. Because you don't know how long that goes.
But they saw light from the other side.
But like, you are an adult taking care of all of these children. Send that dumbass kid under there first. Like, he's the one who wanted to go.
Well, I mean, I think you would have to explore. I mean, you'd have to try to find a way out.
Yeah,
I don't think that's beyond the realm of believability. It didn't take me out of the movie or anything.
It did get a little creepy right there, though, too. Because
I was going to say, can we talk about that scene in detail for a little bit?
So she decides that she's not going to swim in all of her clothes because that's, it'd be too cold or whatever.
Yeah.
And they do make the comment about it being too cold. Mm-hmm. So she undresses everything but her underwear, mm-hmm. And then covers herself. But why is he so... I mean, I get he's like
he's a teenager.
He's a hornball teenager.
Yeah.
But
I love that she doesn't even address it or tell him to like turn around.
See, I like
or anything.
that though. I like that too. I mean, cause when she comes back, he's obviously looking at her as she's drying off, and she sees him looking, and she's like, covering up and stuff, and she immediately starts talking about like getting the other kids and back to business. I like the fact that it's not brought up. I mean that's something a kid would do.
They did actually. They gave you a little exposition for this kid, or at least something, because he does turn his back.
Right,
He does, realize, oh, oops, shouldn't be looking.
Sure.
Woo! And
the whole time I was watching all this in the cave, I kept thinking about The Descent and mm-hmm. the way the caves look in that, and then the way the caves look in this. And I'm just like, it's a big cave that they're in.
I mean, it is.
Like this.
Now, I'm not saying this movie couldn't use some crawlers. I mean, that would have been interesting, but,
I don't think... What would have been nice is to have a little bit of claustrophobia here.
There's the thing, like, every area was so open.
But... No, I know not every cave is like that, and this probably was just some place they found, and they were like, well, this is a good place to hide a bunch of school kids while we try to sell them off for ransom, like you normally would do. You know, you see a good hole in the ground, you're like, that would be a good place for school kids. That's just what they were thinking.
Sure. I mean, that's...
Anyways. So she does swim under. The other side is an opening into the wilderness beyond. So they go back, they rally up the kids...
This is where my issue comes in.
Okay.
I don't know how old Norelle is as an actual actor here. And she was born in 1967. So when this
85.
came out, so she'd have been 18. But how they portrayed her in the film to be younger, they hypersexualized that scene.
Yeah, I can kind of see that. Yeah.
Like where they just had her in a tank top and it was very obvious, like they were kind of trying to linger a little bit on her undressing, and like you could see things that I think
it was mostly just to show her uncomfortability with the situation.
Maybe, but I think
she's coming to terms with,
and she does get that later. You know, like she does address that later, but I don't know.
I didn't think it was pervy.
From a directorial standpoint, I didn't feel that was necessary. And I felt like it added a little too much sexualization that didn't need to be there. Like, because there is sexualization on her early.
I can kind of see your point, Michael, because I think part of the reason that's there is because the kidnappers are sexualizing her. But the problem is that in that scene, the kidnappers
aren't there.
Yeah,
so
I can kind of see that.
Because they did not sexualize Sally.
Well, she also didn't want to get like half naked in front of all these people because she's self-conscious,
right?
You know,
but
it's about her character.
But I don't necessarily think you needed to show it the way that you did. Like you didn't have to.
I didn't find it lingering. I mean, I respect that you did.
I didn't feel that you needed to have this girl in a tank top with her nipples showing when you didn't have Sally that way. Like you could have shown, like you could have at least covered that part up to where. I don't know. It just.
I mean, yeah, I guess you could. I could see why you would say that.
I didn't feel it was necessary for the character to do it that way.
I know female nudity makes you uncomfortable.
No, it's just
another point. I'll meet you there on that. Is that this whole scene is just way too long. So anything they could do to trim it down.
I like it's beginning to show the kids working together and caring more about one another. You know, because they're helping the little ones get out. They come back. Sid comes back, and Derek can't swim.
Yeah,
and you know
don't forget the long part where Sally gets stuck.
Yeah, I mean, but that could happen. I mean, that's
the main thing is that Derek's don't run.
Derek's never run.
You know, the other thing too is before they get to the little underground lake thing, there's that tight squeeze they have to kind of push through, and they try to stage this whole thing where it starts to collapse. But it's like the only way you know it's happening is because the characters tell you it's happening. And then they kind of like some dust kicks out, and that's all that happens. I know it's beyond the budget, but it's like, why even have that?
I feel like where the film ends up going, this is just way too long because it doesn't end up being. I think you could have accomplished what you were talking about, like what you liked about this. I think you could have accomplished it a lot quicker because I felt the film needed more time on what it ends on.
Right, because if you look at the title and you read that synopsis. So I thought, like, okay, this cave is going to be the fortress.
Yeah.
But this is just, like, all set up to go to
an hour in, we still don't have the fortress.
When are we going to get to the fireworks factory?
1 star, no actual fortresses.
Yeah.
That's probably out there somewhere.
But what I do like what happens afterwards, though.
Yes, because they start walking. They're out in the middle of nowhere, and they come upon this farmhouse. Lonely farmhouse, all by itself.
Right.
And it's dark. It's night. It's cold.
Which I hate to do the thing where it's like you question what characters do in a movie. Because, you know, that's a terrible thing that happens in horror films a lot where it's like, well, that's dumb. But it's different when you're in the moment, I know. But it's like, you got out of that cave. You know the killers are nearby. And the first thing you do is go to the closest house in sight. And you don't, like, scout it or wait and watch or do anything.
Yeah, I mean, when you're cold and exhausted and you've got a bunch of kids.
I didn't really think too much on that.
I don't think that's too far-fetched.
But I also wasn't thinking about how rural how remote this was until literally you realize how remote this is. I don't think they didn't do a whole lot to set up.
The next house may have been, 20 miles away or something.
Right.
I mean,
well, they get there, and this perfect example of a hoity-toity old lady is at the door.
he's a hoity-toity.
Jason,
Man,
you're just
Jason,
defending everyone.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You're right.
You're brimstoning the shit out of this, man. The old lady was dead. You didn't fucking know she was dead? She's been to
She
hell,
seemed like an
Jason.
average old lady to me.
She was important to the character development of Sue's arc.
It would have been better if they actually took the lady from the Nightingale. That's like, don't pick them up. It's like
staring at the
that
moon.
lady is hoity-toity.
Okay, yes,
Yeah.
there's an old lady there.
But-
and Sally is like telling the spiel what happened. But Father Christmas comes up from behind the old lady. Oh, the crooks are there.
Surprise, they've commandeered the house because it's the closest house to the cave.
Sure, it makes sense.
So it kind of goes on. We get some scenes with all of them in there. And
I just like the exchange, though, where it's like the kids are hungry and she brings that up. And they're like, well, your food's up at the cave.
Yeah, we brought you dinner, but you weren't there. I love how that's delivered.
Yeah.
It's like, you hurt my feelings. I was bringing you dinner.
So all the guys sit down and make them serve them dinner while the kids watch.
Yeah.
And it's funny because the one kid's like, oh, I hope they have such and such. Like, they name some food. And she's like,
I don't think we're
getting anything.
Yeah.
I mean, they probably brought him Vegemite up to the cave, and that's probably like, we gotta get the fuck out of here. I ain't Vegemite.
So then the abductors are going to put everyone out in a barn, and the old lady doesn't like this idea because her husband's, old and shit.
Yeah.
So the Father Christmas throws her to the ground. The husband, that's my wife, and then Father Christmas just straight up shoots him in the fucking gut.
And like explodes
Yeah.
his body. It's like blood everywhere.
There's some good gore there.
Yeah.
That was a shock. I was a little shocked. I didn't expect.
Yeah.
We didn't have any reason yet to think that they were going to go so hard on that gut shot.
Which, I mean, we should say like the kidnappers, they all have sawed-off shotguns. So they're packing like, serious weaponry.
And there is a scene that makes me question. I think those were very, very real.
Shotguns?
Because Father Christmas lets a shot off outside of the van, and you actually see his arm kick. And he actually looks, because like most of the time, the blanks don't have as much kick. And actors usually have to react to show that something has kick. This dude's arm was just like, when he shot it, his arm like inadvertently was like, bam! And I'm like, these fucking guys are real shotguns.
It's Australia, man.
Jesus,
I mean,
man.
hey, I wouldn't be surprised.
So when he's like shoving this gun in this kid's face, it could be loaded.
like, oh god, did you check that? And I remember the scene. I saw this when I was pretty young. Like I saw it about when it came out, so I was probably like 10 or 11 or something.
has to be pretty shocking.
Yeah, and this scene it was like, oh god, I hadn't been yet inundated with graphic violence. That was still
Freaks
maybe,
nature.
And they
2
really
years away.
sell it because as they're starting to force everyone outside, Norelle was the closest to the old man, and she kind of like drops. And she's got like blood on her hands, and she's just like, oh.
She's collecting the fish.
That was,
She's-
I thought
she's
that
trying
was
to
a
grab the fish.
really interesting thing, because they did have this elaborate fish tank that the
and
kids
it
really
breaks.
liked. And it breaks when old dude gets his gut blown out. And I did think that was an interesting thing character-wise to do for Norelle, that she's like trying to pick up the fish, because it's the only thing she can do.
Right.
That might make a difference. But yeah, they usher everybody else out to the barn. The poor old lady's like, my husband.
You hear an off-screen shot, and
Yeah.
she's dead too.
Yeah. And then they immediately make a fire.
Oh, there's one more thing that happens while they're in the house, isn't it? Is it when they're in the house?
What is it?
Isn't that whenever they mention one of the names of the kidnappers?
Oh, yeah.
Like
Yeah,
one of
it
them
is.
calls him Jim or something. Father
Yeah,
Christmas
he gets
Jim.
real pissed off.
Yeah.
And he's like, we said no names.
Yeah.
But
And we hear them, when they lock them in the barn, we also hear the guys arguing outside. Because they're talking about how they should start killing one every hour until they get the ransom.
And one of them's talking about how it's gone kind of sideways and they want to give it up.
Yeah, and don't you hear a gunshot too,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So you think they're fighting amongst themselves, perhaps?
I did laugh in the barn, though, because they're like, okay, we need to start a fire. So they sweep up some straw in the middle of this barn that's covered in straw.
Yeah.
And they light it, and I'm like, this is not going to end well.
Yeah.
This is a really bad idea.
Yeah, there was a bit too much straw around.
We're
there.
locked in a straw barn. Let's just light a fire made out of straw.
I'm also pretty sure this is where like Sally starts to break down finally more.
Yeah.
because she says every action I made is a mistake. We've done the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
And she's blaming herself heavily already. She does end up saying later that the things they did brought death to the old couple, that it was their fault, that they were dead. And so she's already feeling, but
that was like a good tender moment too, where the kids try to console her and they're like, "Oh, Miss, please don't cry."
Yeah.
Because they often call her Miss throughout the film. That's kind of like their respectful term for her.
But they end up deciding fuck this. We outnumber them.
Especially now, because there's only 3.
Yeah.
2 leave to go on a supply run, so they just got the 1 guard at the barn.
Yeah.
So they decide they're going to come up with this plan that they're going to lure him in, and then they're going to knock shit out of him.
They start singing one of their damn songs.
Yeah.
One of their Whoville songs.
Yep, and he kind of pokes in on him. He's like, "Wait, what's going on in here?"
Yeah.
And then
And it's the cat dude.
I kind of love this scene.
It's a good scene. I like it.
And they do the whole "Oh, you're cold, right?
Yeah, it's cold outside.
sit
We got a
down by the
fire. Come down here and join us.
So was it Sally that conks him, or was it Sid?
Well, first
was-
they do the weird thing where this is one of the ones that's been ogling Norel the
Yeah.
whole time.
Yeah.
And so they have her come and sit by him.
And she's like, "Oh, your shotgun. Wow.
See, this
Aren't you afraid of it going off?"
I think this is an appropriate time because that character has already sexualized her. It just didn't need to happen. It's fine. I'm gonna let it go. I'm gonna let it go.
Okay.
I'm gonna let it go.
Okay.
But which one of them ends up conking him?
Sid.
Yeah.
Yeah, with a big log or something.
Yeah, knocks him upside the head. But when the dude goes down, shotgun goes off, and nobody's really paying attention. They're all like, Sally's like, "Oh, we got him," or whatever, and then it's like, "Oh fuck,
Tommy got hit.
Yeah.
Tommy got shot."
Well, the first thing is one of them says Tommy's dead.
Yeah.
And at that moment, I was like, dude, if they seriously kill one of the kids, that's crazy.
I think they should have.
Probably,
That's
yeah.
one of my complaints with the movie. I mean, it's still, especially for the time, it kind of pushes some boundaries. You
I will
didn't
agree with
usually
that.
see kids in danger that much back then. But yeah, I think one of them needed to die. at some
It should. There was no reason for it to not be Tommy in that scene,
Right.
Because
He really does nothing else for the rest of the film.
right, he
He
gives
sits there
them.
and bleeds. Little baby.
What are you gonna do? Bleed on me? And a really, for as good as the makeup job was and the special effects job was for the gut shot in the house, they just tanked it with that scene
Yeah.
because it was very clearly like a really bad fake shoulder that they just kind of put there. It's fine, whatever.
I
But
mean, you get the point.
they blew their load on that dude's gut. I wish I hadn't have said that like that.
They did use a shotgun.
Yeah. Okay.
They literally blew his load. And
So yeah, but now they realize we got to do something
get the
because
hell out of here.
so they head back for the cave.
No,
no.
they start running out into the countryside.
She gathers the little kids and she tells Sid and Derek to run into the house and grab anything they can. That's
Oh, that's
food,
right, yeah.
supplies, anything that seems useful to them.
Yeah.
And those kids become fucking rock stars with everything they grab.
Yeah.
I
And they
do
also
love this scene.
they find one of the abductors dead outside too.
That was the duck.
That was a duck. That was Vernon Wells.
Dabby. It's my
His-
favorite one.
And it's like he's strung up on the fence or something.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
his
and then he's
body falls
decapitated.
apart from his head. Yeah.
So
But
that
she points the kids the other way so they won't see it.
Yeah.
I actually rewound it there to make sure I didn't miss anything, and I did not. I didn't miss anything. He was just dead. There, we didn't really.
Well, I think it's implied they killed
They
him.
shot him, yeah.
Yeah, but
He's
like,
maybe they shot him in the neck or something, and his head was about to fall
Because he's the
off.
one that's saying we should stop and give
yeah.
up.
But I just I had to back it up. Did I miss somehow them, or did he get killed off screen? And then but he did.
Or was this suddenly some sort of supernatural horror film? There's scarecrows out there killing everyone.
I don't know. Is that your theory at the end, Jason, when we get there?
No.
Yeah. But no, the boys wrangle up everything that's useful in the house, and now they start heading out. Right.
Yeah, they get to the titular fortress.
But along the way, we do have some shenanigans in this forest where they hear a sound, they think it's one of the killers, and then a kid walks off and gets lost, and they got to go back and get the kid and bring the kid
Yeah,
up.
there's
and,
some little misadventures, but nothing.
Yeah.
Ooh, more padding.
Yeah, it didn't need to happen. It's kind of why I forgot it.
But yes, then we get to the titular fortress. We get to the titular fortress.
Yep, and they realize that this is a pretty good, area here. It's easily defensible.
Up on a hill.
Up on the hill, yep.
What I do love is when they start the boys start getting out the supplies. And they're like talking about how good of a job they've done at getting supplies, and the kids keep pulling shit out. He's like, well, do we have a can opener? And the kid's like, a giant fucking machete. He's like, will this do?
And it's like, oh, here's this hatchet too.
They have like that was the most dangerous way to open a can if I've ever seen one.
You gotta open it somehow.
Which, as we all
Not
know,
like that.
growing up, as we all read Gary Paulson's The Hatchet, a hatchet's all you need to survive. So,
But she's like, when I was watching her use that machete on the can, I was like, you go cut your hand open, girl. This is not safe.
So they begin to start gearing up, making preparations.
They go full First Blood on it.
Yep. They're
well, not quite at first though. At first, they're just kind of settling in, right? It's that next day where it really like escalates.
Yeah.
Where they decide they're gonna stop them.
Start fighting back. Yeah.
It turns out that Derek is an excellent spear maker.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Well, we should say like the inciting event of that though is like the next day, Sally goes out to kind of like look and scout and see if the two remaining people are around, and she sees off in the distance in the trees Father Christmas.
Yeah.
And she kind of freaks out. She has like the shotgun that they got off the guy that they knocked out, and they shoot. And it's like, it just hits it and nothing happens. And you realize it's just the mask kind of placed over a tree.
But she hit it from about 50 yards away with a sawed-off shotgun. And I was
Nice
like,
shot.
God damn!
Yeah, that's what shotguns are for, man.
And then one of them shouts up at her, kind of hidden in the forest below this hill.
Yeah, they start taunting them.
And say they're going to come back in the evening. They're going to, have their way with Norel, right? Because they bring that up again, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which causes her to freak out more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then that's where Sally finally clicks, and she's like, "There's nothing else we can do. We have to just go with them.
We have
now."
to kill them.
Yeah.
So they go all First Blood, and the kids...
They're making punji sticks, putting them in the ditches, and making booby traps.
Yeah, because I think they mentioned they learned some, like, they had lessons about the indigenous
It's
Australian.
Australia.
Yeah.
Everyone there knows how to, take
Well,
care
and behind them in the classroom, they have, like, boomerangs and
Yeah.
spears and shit all up on the wall.
Yeah.
So they make a spike pit, they make spears, they make little traps, all kinds of fun
They
stuff.
make that thing that Rambo uses in First Blood that, like, swings down and it has, like, spikes on it and shit.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And I do like the scene where Derek's showing the spear to Tommy, and Tommy reaches, because he's putting it in the fire to like harden it and stuff, and Tommy reaches up and gets like some of the suit off and just puts war paint onto his
War
face.
paint up.
Yeah.
It basically turns into Return of the Jedi.
I should say, too, like, ooh.
All the kids become Ewoks.
At this scene, like, Sid, he's like shirtless going around setting everything up, and I'm like, dude, this kid is jacked as hell.
He really is.
I know.
Like, it's like he could kick all three of our asses
Oh,
at the same
easily,
time. Like,
easily.
I was like, what the hell is this kid, man?
But that's not uncommon, though, because, like, I don't know where you grew up. Did you grow up around farming families?
Not extensively, I guess.
So, like, my family was a farming family. I didn't farm, but, like, the rest of my family did. And
Michael spent a lot of time around shirtless young men.
Yeah, I did. And it led to a lot of my body issues now that I have never, ever looked like that. Probably because I never did a hard day of work in my life.
Right, yeah.
But that is how farm kids looked. So I bought that easily.
Yeah.
That kid's like used to...
You're working out in the field all day, you're gonna,
you get ripped. Yeah, but that's all those scenes with him are really funny because he's out there like, yeah, I'm gonna fucking kill these guys. Like, they're getting amped up now. They're like, yeah.
Now there's a weird cut at this point where it really threw me off. I had to go back and like watch again. So after they've made all their prep, there's a scene with Norel and Sally, and she's like, as you were saying, Jason, freaking out, and she goes to Sally to kind of talk about this, and she's like, well, I'm afraid of what they say they're gonna do to me. And Sally kind of comforts her.
She also has the curse.
Oh yeah, gotta throw that in there.
Mm-hmm.
I did think that scene was sweet.
Yeah, I like
No,
that scene.
totally, yeah.
Because she's basically saying that I don't know what to do.
Right.
But here's what happens. That happens. It immediately cuts inside the cave, and they're like, "Where's Norel?" And everyone's like, "I don't know. She's gone."
Yeah.
Yeah, she did disappear quickly.
It's like
and
they
I
just
wasn't
poof.
paying attention to that.
And just like jumped right to that. And I'm sure like more time has passed, but man, it was just such a hard cut.
It's really hard for me though.
And now you're arguing to get to the action too quickly. Make up your mind, Dustin.
Well, this is the part with the fortress is the part I wanted.
It does throw me off because when I hear an Australian or New Zealand accent and she said she has the curse, I just immediately thought she like Zingaya.
I have the bite.
The bite. I thought that's what she was talking about.
I don't think so.
And yeah, it didn't turn out.
There's
that
no
way.
Sumatran rat monkeys in
It
this.
did not turn out that way.
So Sally goes out to look for Narelle. Narelle has fallen apparently and like
Yeah, she's like
sprained-
crossing a stream and she hurts her foot.
God damn it, Narelle.
Where is this scene? Because this is like the scene that would matter, and then we don't have it. It just like happened.
Yeah. But she comes across one of the guys out there who's
It's-
maskless now.
Not Father Christmas. So it
Yeah,
must
the other
be,
dude.
the
cat.
mouse.
No,
Mac the
cat's
mouse.
dead. He burned up in the barn.
Is this the curly-headed guy?
Yeah.
Okay, because the other one is Anakin Skywalker guy. He has the little rat tail, the Anakin Skywalker
Yeah.
rat
Oh,
tail.
he's a
Right, he does.
Padawan.
Yeah, so he's a Padawan. He didn't have the full braid, but he had the little rat tail.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, he's looking for Narelle. He's like taunting her. Sally kind of runs in to save her. He starts chasing Sally. They
The
run.
booby trap goes off, but he dodges it. I do like his look of surprise.
Like,
He's like,
holy shit!
what the hell?
And it's a cool thing because she gets back up to the cave, and then the kids do their rock trap.
The little kids,
Yeah,
too. They
yeah.
get a pole and they start prying those boulders off.
With as loose as the action is in this movie, it wouldn't surprise me if they didn't tell that dude that trap was there and it went off, and his reaction was like, "What the fuck? Holy shit, these kids!"
Yeah, good thing you hit the mark we gave you.
You're just gonna duck right here. Don't worry about why.
It's fine.
Just don't miss it.
But I like this scene because she like clings to like a rock that's there.
Yeah, and the
kinda
boulders
like,
are falling over her.
and it seems really fucking dangerous because she is like really pushed up in there, as tight as she can be, and the rocks are just slamming down everywhere.
Yeah.
Which does end up hitting a dude, and
But it doesn't finish him.
yeah, it does not finish him. And so Sally ends up getting pulled over by this dude. Like, he comes back for her, and she ends up she goes down, and you think she pulls a total like Indiana Jones moment, like
Yeah.
she's off the cliff. But she lands on top of the dude on top of their spike pit.
Yeah.
So like, dude's impaled, and she's like, "I'm good,
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
him, not me."
Jimmy's like, Sid, come give me help.
So, I mean, you saw that coming, but it was still a good kill.
Oh, yeah, it's great. It's even better when his buddy finds him.
Yeah.
It gets closer to the evening. Father Christmas comes back. They kind of retreat into the cave and set up their next line of like traps.
Yeah. And Father Christmas dude comes out, sees the dead guy, freaks out.
And I love it too because it's like he's on there, and then as Father Christmas is watching, he starts sinking down on the
Yeah,
spears.
his body starts sinking in the... Yeah.
That was a good visual.
That was great, yeah. And he's super pissed off, right? So he just runs into the cave after them. He's going to kill all the kids and stuff. But they've got a little tripwire there. And he trips on, falls in the fire, and then everyone just starts descending on this guy and beating him to death.
And we get like a montage kind of... They don't show so much of it as what they show the kids. Like, all the kids are stabbing
Yeah,
this
the little
dude,
girl's got a
like-
big rock. She's bringing it down on the dude.
You
and they're
see
all-
the kids with the weapons, and you hear the impact, but you don't see too much of what's
You see
actually...
some blood splitting
yeah.
up on his face.
Most importantly, they just show his face and the look of horror on
Yeah.
his face of like all these children just destroying him. And that kind of ends that scene. And the next scene we have is Sally sitting outside of the schoolhouse reading them a book.
Beowulf.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We should say
I thought it was Beowulf. Yeah.
That's like a significant...
Because we're talking about the trophy from Grendel's arm, I think it was. They
Yeah.
kept as a trophy.
And so now we have two law enforcement guys show up.
I do want to point out that all the kids are behaving themselves and wrapped with inattention. You know?
Yeah.
In contrast to the opening.
They the police show up and they're like, we found the final body.
Yeah, the coroner report came back.
And so we need to talk to you about it. And she's like, nothing you can't say here in front of them.
Yeah.
And the cops are like,
I really wish there was a place we could go.
kind of don't want to. They end up saying, about there were some things that were inconsistent about their story.
Mutilations that an animal wouldn't have been able to do.
Right.
And I like it because they get her to go off into the school.
Yeah.
But then as they're talking to her slowly, like all the kids just silently filter into the room and like
make a
semicircle around them. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they end up basically telling her, like, we know what you did. And
She's like, so what?
yeah.
Well, she asked them, do you have any hard evidence?
Well, and this scene really bothered me
It bothered me too.
because I'm like, if you told them that you got abducted, who gives a fuck? if you mutilated these guys.
Especially with like the rampage they went on as like the shooting people and stuff.
Like
I agree.
I didn't understand why it was such a... I think there were better ways to do that. And maybe the book does it differently. But I feel like there's better ways to convey.
Or,
like,
I mean, also we didn't see... Maybe they did a lot more to the body. Maybe we should have seen more
I
of
think
that.
they insinuate that.
You know.
That they do based on the final shot of the film. I think you do. I think they do insinuate that there's more. But also, why the fuck do you care? Like...
Well, here, I've got a fun note for this.
Okay.
Should we wrap it up? We're almost done with the...
Well, yeah, let's finish the plot, and then I'll hit this note.
Yeah, so the dudes are looking around. They're like, okay, this is a little creepy. We're just going to let this... Okay, fine. We'll let this rest. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Whatever. Let's get out of here. And all the kids are sitting down nice and orderly. Everyone's getting along, and she says that everyone...
You get early marks.
Star pupil. Yeah, early marks. Everyone
Yeah.
gets to leave. Mm-hmm. And she's going to leave and turns around, and there's like... They have jars on the counter with like preserved animals.
Yeah,
and
it's like for
things
their science
that.
projects and stuff.
And it zooms in on a heart. A human-looking heart.
What was funny,
I guess it's a heart.
Well, that was
It's
funny.
a heart.
Piper was like, "What is that?" And I was like, "That's a heart. You're a doctor." She's like, "That's not a fucking heart, dude. I've seen one. I've held one. That's not a heart."
Okay. It is supposed to be a heart.
It kind of looks like a heart.
Yeah, it looked like a piece of chicken breast.
I thought it was cotton candy at first.
It should have been the dude's genitals floating in there.
That's really gonna.
Whoa! Wait a minute. And that's the end of the movie.
So here's a little fun thing. Apparently, in the Hungarian VHS release, there's an alternate take of this final part. Mm-hmm. So in this version, the policemen are questioning Sally, and the children come in, but they've got their spears, and they kind of threaten the policemen. And then that's what makes them like step off and be like, "Ooh."
So that's kind of
And then
I'm glad that wasn't in the cut we saw.
And then as this is going on, there's a flashback that plays, and the flashback actually shows Sally and the kids butchering Father Christmas and taking out his heart.
Yeah, we could have used that. That would have been nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe, but I don't think it's needed.
I think the spear thing was a good choice to leave out because that's a little too hard.
And also,
threatening them would be
fucking Hungarians, man. Like, if their target audience is like, show the kids trying to skewer them, like, yeah.
But it'd have problems with this for what you were saying, Michael, that like, given the situation and what went on, it shouldn't matter that they killed their captors.
Like, I was sitting there, even like Piper was watching it with me, and they're questioning her, like hard questioning her.
Yeah, they say something about to wantonly mutilate a body, you know.
And I literally sat there and I was like, what the fuck does it matter? Like, they were talking about raping the children.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, why do we have sympathy for the guys that were torturing and trying to hurt children? Like, why are we sympathizing with the fact that they
because they're
decided
bleeding heart liberals. They're a bunch of left-wing
Oh, God damn it, Jason.
cucks.
But I mean, it's like we know that they had learned by that time they can't run. It's either they have to die or this dude has to die. That's like all there is left.
Now, I see what it's very obvious what they're doing, and what they're doing with the story is that the trauma of what these things will do to you and could make you do that you didn't realize you were capable of. Mm-hmm. And but there is an interesting scene that we glossed over, is that Tommy pops up at the window with the Father Christmas mask on, and everybody, you're like, oh fuck, and then but Tommy like pulls the mask off and everybody's laughing, and Sally's like, oh Tommy, you little devil, kind of a thing.
And we should say when they're reading Beowulf and she mentions the trophy, one of the little girls is like, oh, we have a trophy.
Yeah, I do like that line.
So they are telling that this event has changed them or whatnot. I don't particularly think it's changed them that much, you know, like, I don't know. I mean, taking somebody's heart and putting it in a jar probably changes you.
I get the sense that they're like a tribe now.
Yeah.
Because they're all very unified and they're all mannerly.
And I think that's where the Lord of the
treating
Flies...
each other with respect, you know?
Well, that ain't no tribe, that's for sure. If we've learned anything, tribes are like, no, fuck you, get out of here.
I think that's where the Lord of the Flies angle comes in. I just don't think there's like enough of that.
Well, I mean, with Lord of the Flies, though, they were like fighting each other a lot. Mm-hmm. They weren't really unified, as opposed to what these kids all unified against their oppressors. They were all together by the end.
Well, and it is a thing of shared trauma. You know, like you come together through shared trauma and find common ground with people that you didn't think that you would have due to shared trauma.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I don't necessarily think it was needed, though, to go as far as to... I don't know. I don't think that story. I don't think you needed to have that at the end. It was almost like an M. Night Shyamalan thing of like, oh, what a twist! The kids are serial killers now, kind of a thing. And they're not.
I like
but
it. I like it a lot.
It's you liked Brimstone, so
Oh my god.
I was hoping, one thing it made me think of was
Jason's he's actually sitting over here like itching.
thinking about the kids and like what they went through and having to kill this guy. It made me think about Friday the 13th and the whole like Tommy Jarvis storyline, right? Where he's a kid and he kills Jason.
Die!
Yeah.
Die!
So it made me think about that, and I was like, where's the sequel? Where it's like maybe one of them's going to become Father Christmas next.
Yeah, I mean, I'd watch that.
It's actually the sequel is Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Garbage Day.
As much as I ripped on this movie, though, like of the things that I ripped apart, I didn't think it was bad.
Oh no.
Okay, well, what's your final thoughts? What do you think about it?
Do you have any more fun facts?
Not really.
I do.
Nope.
Casting for Sally was like a whole big to-do.
Yeah, I did read about that.
So HBO had agreed that they were going to put up half of the film's budget if the role was played by a well-known actress that they approved of. And so at the time, Actors Equity, which was an actors union in Australia, they were known for being like a big challenge and blocking a lot of film productions if they tried to bring in foreign actors for the leads instead of Australians, which makes sense. Protect your own interests there. They refused to allow the production to proceed because HBO's original choice for the role was Bess Armstrong.
Who was in Jaws 3D?
Yes. Good to know. And so they're kind of going back and forth. They couldn't, reach the same page on this. And so then they finally settled it. They said they were going to cast Sigrid Thornton. But then Thornton dropped out 2 months prior to when they were going to shoot because she was pregnant. And so that was going to mess up shooting. Mm-hmm. And then they just stopped pre-production completely because Equity refused this ultimatum to say, oh, well, since that didn't work, let's go back to Armstrong. So that grounded out to a halt. And
How
then
much money that wasted.
Finally, it went back into pre-production 3 months later when they all kind of were like, Rachel Ward? Yeah, okay, Rachel Ward, let's do that. So they actually supported her casting. She's technically English by birth, and she had mostly appeared in American films up to this point, but she had just recently migrated to Australia with her husband.
Oh, okay.
So
She did a horror film before this, The Final Terror. I never watched it.
wasn't she also in Night School?
Yes.
Yeah, I like that movie.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, so I guess we can
Yeah,
final
let's
thoughts.
talk about it. Michael, why don't you go first?
So, of the obvious things that I took issue with, there is a lot of padding in here that I felt could. But it's a lean movie anyway. It's only an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So I feel like if you cut that padding, you're looking at like an hour movie tops.
I think I would have cut those and had other scenes to fill spots.
It would be interesting to know what else was in the source material. Like what else was in the book, little nuanced things that maybe didn't make it. I'm probably not going to read it, so I'm not, so that would be interesting to know what else could have been added. I think overall, though, it does have some shocking moments. It gives a creepy ass vibe.
Oh yeah.
I think it's. I think if the score were a little better, you could have really sold that creepy aspect of it.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy is the best cut is in the credits. When it like really goes hard with the synths and stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, where was this in the film at any point? That would have been awesome.
Yeah.
It did seem like there was some interference. Like a lot of people had some hands in it and said like, okay, maybe we should do this or you should do this and not this, which kind of makes it feel like it's not always one vision.
Right.
So I do. Yeah, I liked the tone of the movie a lot, and I think it's definitely worth watching. I'm not sure that it's something that I'd revisit much, if any.
Sure.
I've seen it. Happy I've seen it, but I think I'll settle at a solid 3. And I don't think that's a bad rating at all.
No.
3 isn't a bad rating.
That's above average.
So I enjoyed watching it, and I think the times when the film goes for it, it fucking goes for it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Which I really like.
Like that shotgun kill with the old man.
Yeah, that's great.
You could run that up against a lot of stuff and it would hold up.
Yeah, that one was good. That was really
you don't
good.
really expect it because everything's been pretty tame, more or less, until that moment, and then.
So I think what I've had a chance to sit on my thoughts about the sexualization of Narelle. I think what bothers me is that the film went out of its way to cover up much of the sexualization of Sally. Like, I think
Well, she is groped at one point and stuff like that.
she is, but like as far as the scenes where she's undressing, the film really went out of the way to make that mundane.
Could that have been a contractual thing?
Maybe,
I wonder.
Perhaps, but it just didn't feel like in an 80s film where there's typically some sort of like boobs and butt kind of a thing. I felt like they were using Norel for that, and I didn't feel like that was fair.
Well, and we should also note that there was no explicit nudity or anything
Right.
in this
No,
movie. You know,
Right.
So
It was
it's
almost-
all pretty, really suggested.
It really is.
You know.
I don't know. That scene just did not sit well with me
That's
for
fair
some
enough.
reason. And it wasn't that the actress was too young.
Right.
Like she was of age
Yeah.
to do that scene.
It's not a Brooke Shields situation.
Yeah. But I don't know. I have trouble. I take issue in some of the YA stuff with this about like, yes, the actors are of that age, but I really don't like it when they're portraying children and the children are doing very suggestive things. Like one of my issues in Sabrina is like when Kiernan Shipka shows up in lingerie and I'm like,
But kids do that.
I know, but it's like, make them adults. I don't like the fact that we're watching a so-called 16-year-old character do that. I know that's probably a hot take for some people, but for me, it's just kind of like, maybe just leave the hardcore sexualization to adults. And you don't necessarily need to, I don't know, give that to a 16-year-old character. I know it happens. It wasn't cool enough to happen to me, I can tell you that much.
You were doing it wrong.
Exactly. And all these,
I get where you're coming from, and I think it's a valid opinion to
Sure,
have.
yeah.
probably,
That's a valid opinion.
It's my prudish opinion of it, probably.
Hey, it's yours and you own it, man. And so
Yeah.
I'll respect it and I'll fight for it.
My opinion on that kind of things has changed since I've had children. I do find
I can
that
see
it
how
is.
that would change.
I do think that it has changed. I've become much more of a protective person of like children, innocence. So this movie is interesting for me to watch because it's like,
No, I'm intentionally picking as much child endangering movies.
Okay. So here's what I wanted to get to. I told you guys when we showed up tonight to record, I had a theory.
Uh-huh.
So let me string this for you.
Okay.
5,000 Fingers of Dr. T.
Huh?
The Children. And then this movie, Fortress.
don't forget other one, Reflecting Skin.
So, Jason,
What?
I've noticed a trend with your picks.
Like, what? No, I don't think so.
Think about it, Michael. Think about it.
I mean, he's slowly ramping it up.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I probably would have put the children higher as
After
far
this
as like
one, yeah.
the amount of kids that get killed.
It's not intentional, I promise you.
What's with all these kid movies, man?
It's become intervention exposure. We talked to Jason about why you want to see all these kids get killed in movies.
I don't know. It was in
No children get killed in this.
It was in the middle of this film while I was getting annoyed with the swimming under the rock scene and how drawn out it was. I was like, man, this fucking movie with these fucking kids. Every time, Jason, I was like, every time. Every time.
Now
Not
Dustin,
every time.
now
Not
Dustin has strings on his wall with all of your picks, and it's like
I'm going to try to predict the next one. Okay, so my thoughts.
Okay.
I ragged on this film a lot, but it does have a lot that's good about it, I think. And it's what you said, Michael. When it's working, it is like all cylinders, 5-star, top-tier material. Everything is hitting right. Great atmosphere, great mood, good shots the way they're framed, really cool action, special effects and stuff. When it's bad, it's like, ooh, we're really bad, though. Terribly cheesy music, really like drawn-out, padded moments that you're just like, why are we watching this now at this point? We understand what's going on, come on. I like a lot of the ideas of it. I wish there was more of the fortress part. I don't know how you would slice that and make it. It would probably have to just be a totally different movie, I think, to even make that work. But
we need to have like multiple assaults on the fortress,
Yeah,
and like
something
they have
like
to
that.
fall back. They're too fortified. Fall back.
I will agree. I wish there was more of them were still alive when they were assaulting
Yeah.
the fortress. There could have been more cool kills and stuff like that.
But so that said, in the scope of everything, and especially if I run this up against your other children movies that we've watched over the course of the show so far, I'm pretty solid at like a 3 on this one.
Okay.
I think it's good. I think it's got a lot going for it. If you like Kids in Peril, or I can't say child death because there is no child death, but it almost skirts that line and quite almost gets there if that's your thing.
Even
But,
fucking Tommy makes it out.
yeah,
man.
everyone survives.
After taking a shotgun blast to the arm.
it's fun, and if you like weird made-for-TV movies, I think this is perfectly a weird made-for-TV movie that you watch it and you're like, huh, I don't think this could happen now if someone tried to make this.
Oh, God, no.
I would love to see a remake of this, though.
Yeah.
That fixes the issues that we've had.
No, you wouldn't, because in current Hollywood, the remake of this would be like...
Oh, I didn't say Hollywood should do it.
No, the only way it's going to be picked up and anybody's going to sell it is this turns YA.
Fuck all that.
And you know it. You know I'm right.
I know that, but I mean, then you get some indie director.
Will you fix your fucking pop filter?
I don't know what's going on with this thing, man.
The angrier Jason gets, the more his pop filter just goes...
I'm not angry.
So yeah, solid 3 on it. I liked it. I didn't love it. I do think it's worth seeking out.
Okay, sweet. That's not bad. I expected way worse.
Yeah.
No, we're just mostly just giving you shit.
Yeah, we just have to tease you a little bit.
I know.
What are your final thoughts, Jason?
I still like it. I hadn't seen this since, oh God, I don't know, probably a young teenager.
I feel like he's also said that about every one of the kids' movies that he's brought to us.
Just about. It did affect me then because it was one of the more edgy.
I wouldn't
type
let
movies I watched.
I wouldn't let someone your age when you watch this. I don't think I would let them.
Luckily,
watch this
my
movie.
parents were pretty permissible back then.
Especially with like the insinuations of like rape and.
Well, I mean, violence was fine. If there was actual nudity, no, you gotta close your eyes. Don't watch.
No titties.
But violence, that's cool. It's all right. It's fine.
It can be
because this is America. Damn it!
like it can be violence against the titties.
Oh my God.
But if it's just them there, no, you can't watch those. But if something happens to one of them, I guess it's okay.
All right. But I remember seeing this back in the day, and it left an impression on me. It kind of, especially the ending, it weirded me out. I thought it was pretty extreme. So it kind of paved the way for me to get into movies more like, The Hills Have Eyes, and more of those survival, fighting back movies.
You were looking for your tribe in high school and never could find it.
They weren't there.
Because I know who you hung out with in high school.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good thing we were never abducted. We would have all died.
No, they'd have given your asses back. I can tell you that.
But I'm a sucker for this type of film. I like the whole thing where, they have to fight back against their aggressors and find their savage side and all that. And it made me think of this quote that never left me that Sam Raimi said one time. It was I had to look it up because I could not remember where it came from, but it was this limited MTV series back in the day called This Is Horror. And he was doing an interview for it. And he said there are 3 laws of horror. He said, the innocent must suffer. The guilty must be punished. The hero must taste blood to be a man.
Whoa.
And this movie just clicked, made me think of that quote that I hadn't thought about in ages.
Man, I wouldn't say there's certain people I wouldn't say that to right now in our society. Oh no!
And this movie encapsulates that quote pretty well.
For sure.
I think it's still it's hard to hold up to that memory when you see it, when you're a kid and everything like that. But I still think it's a pretty solid flick. I still dig it. Yeah, you're right. There are issues with padding, and the music's a little cheesy, and it could have used some more gore. I do think one of the kids should have bought it just to up the stakes.
Tommy,
it would have been so easy to let it be Tommy.
And that's when the switch turns, and they're like, "Oh, we've got to fight back, or we're gonna die." But I'd give it 3.5 stars.
He had to go a half over.
So we're kind of
ours.
all in the ballpark on this one.
Yeah. It's not a classic, but I mean, as far as made-for-TV movies go, I mean, you could do a lot worse. I think it's worth looking at. If you like survivalist type, suspense thrillers, you'll like it.
And we should point out, this is actually very accessible.
Yeah, it's streaming on YouTube. It's actually pretty good.
I was impressed with the quality.
Yeah, it's DVD quality on YouTube.
And when we established, there is no Blu-ray, but there is a DVD out there.
There is DVD. Yeah.
I will say it looks better on a smaller screen.
Well, sure.
Of course.
I was watching part of it on my laptop.
Yeah, I think it was like 480p or something.
And it
like
looked
that.
pretty damn good on my laptop. And I was like, oh, this isn't bad. But then moved it to my actual TV.
Got a little fuzzy.
You get pixelation.
And I was
stuff.
like, oh, I just want to go back to my laptop now.
Great.
So yeah, that is my made-for-TV movie pick.
Nice 3-star range film.
Mm-hmm.
Dustin.
Well, as we've left the topic of kids, allow me to now bring us to a topic that I always bring, which is Japan.
But not Japanese kids.
No.
Okay.
Well, there's a kid in this.
Oh. All right.
So, I'm going to move us forward more, right? So we were in the 80s. We're going to go to right at the start of the 2000s now.
Okay.
And
J horror boom.
we've jumped some things. All right, we were in America. We went to Australia. So now let's go to Japan. So we've hit 3 different countries.
World tour.
We've done 3 different time periods. Here, let me give you another through line. This is another film that's going to be based on a novel.
What?
So that's also a triple connection we've got. And this one also is in that sort of like thriller. That edges a little more into horror, I think. Director that we've mentioned before that I've wanted to go back around to actually talk about, Kiyoshi Kurosawa. We mentioned him in the Occult episode because he had a role in that film.
I do like Kurosawa.
So we are going to check out a made-for-TV movie that he made from 2000 called Seance. And this is based on a 1961 novel, Seance on a Wet Afternoon by Mark McShane, which was also in 64 made into a movie.
What was that movie?
I think it was called Seance on a Wet Afternoon.
Huh. Haven't heard of that.
That's because it
was a British
weird
film.
title, and no one's like you read that title and you're like, Seance on a Wet Afternoon.
Yeah, it was a
Oh,
British
good.
film directed by Brian Forbes.
Okay.
So this is another like 2-film situation too. I don't want to set up too much about it. We'll just let it be a surprise when we get there. I will say this is kind of like Fortress, another hard one to track down. I don't think it's actively streaming on any kind of service where it's a made-for-TV movie like this. It's sort of fallen through the cracks. But that's, again, why sometimes we need to cover these kind of things so people know about it, can be saying, hey, I want to see this, so that hopefully one day someone will pick it up and give it a nice restoration and put it out there for everyone to see.
Yeah. So how are we going to watch it?
It's out there if you know where to look.
Okay. All right.
I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Sounds a little...
He went very X-Files on us.
Yeah,
It's out there.
It's out there.
You just have to know where to look.
It's been really fun talking about this one. It's been fun ripping on Jason.
We love you, Jason. It's all in good fun.
Oh, I know.
If he
I love
couldn't
it.
take it, I mean,
I subsist on your hatred and...
I can feel your hatred. He's Emperor Palpatine over here. No, as always, we love hearing from you guys, so please continue to tweet. Write. I think tweet's the thing that everybody likes to do for us right now.
Whatever you prefer.
Yeah. We're happy with all of them. So it's been a blast. Check out the some other stuff that we've got in the back catalog. If it's still going on, probably the Quick Cuts episode, our most recent one.
Yes, about Dookie Fly Swatter, and go check out that project. Give it a look. Share it around. Help them get their steam going. Let other people know about it.
It should still be live by the time
I think it's
this
running
comes out.
until about the start of June, so it'll be going for a little bit.
I never know when these come out because we record them when we can. So I always get confused when I'm like, check this out. You should check this out.
I think this one will drop before it's finished. I think so.
And by now, our website should be up and running.
Yes, it is.
So definitely hop on there. I think that we'll probably
Better
have,
write something.
we'll probably have a couple articles on there, and you can, if you like what we do, just a continuation in a slightly different format. So check that out. And until next time, you guys have been listening to Genre Exposure.
Bye, everyone.
Take care.
You're listening to the Prescribed Films Podcast Network, home to hundreds of hours of free podcast entertainment. The shows on this network all have a common goal, providing you with the best discussions about movies and other forms of entertainment media. The PFPN hopes to fill your earholes with audio joy. Visit our website with links to all the other amazing shows at www.thepfpn.com. Thanks for listening.